Hi, so in this video, we are going to talk about a new grammar item called relative clauses. So what are relative clauses? To make it very simple, a relative clause is a short clause, a short phrase in a sentence that describes a noun. It gives more information to the noun. And each of these clauses usually begin with one of these words. They are who, which, where, whose, why, and when. And these words are also called relative pronouns. You are right. These relative pronouns are actually the WH words that we are already very familiar with. But although there are, as you can see, there are 6 here, this time we are lucky because in Form 2, we only have to look at 3 of them. So let's look at what relative clauses do. Like what I just mentioned, relative clauses add information to a noun. For example, we can look at this picture. Wow, there are many people here. If I want to describe only one of them, then I need to be very specific. Let's look at this sentence. If I tell you, hey, the woman is tall, probably you will ask this question. Which women? Because there are, as you can see, there are 2. Then, I will say, she is standing in the middle. This phrase, the second sentence, gives more information to which women I'm talking about. If I combine the 2 together, I will have this new sentence. The woman who is standing in the middle is tall. This is a sentence with a relative clause, and the relative clause is, I'm pointing to it now, the relative clause is what comes after the word who. Who is standing in the middle? Who is standing in the middle? This is the relative clause. As you can see, this thingy that I add gives information to which women I am talking about, right? Which women? Oh, the one who is standing in the middle. That is the new information. Here I use the relative pronoun who to talk about people. What about dead things, objects, such as buildings? In the same way, I can say the building which is next to our school is tall. In this case, I am using the relative pronoun which to describe objects. And in Form 2, we are only going to look at who and which. And also, the third one would be that. The word that can be used for both people and object. One very important rule to remember is that the clause comes right after the object it describes. It cannot be put anywhere you want it to be. What does that mean? Let's look at this wrong sentence. The woman is standing in the middle who is tall. Of course, this sentence is wrong, but why is it wrong? Well, it is because the clause who is tall is describing the women. So it must come right after the word the women instead of coming after the word middle. Because or else the sentence is very confusing. So the right way to say it would be the woman who is standing in the middle is tall. As you can see here, the word who comes right after the thing or the person it describes. In this case, the women. Why does that matter? I'm going to show you a fun example. The doctor visits his neighbor. He is a murderer. Here comes the question. Who is he here? Is he the doctor? Or is he the neighbor who has killed? Let's look at these 2 sentences. What's the difference? You are right. In the first example, the person who kills is the doctor. The doctor who visits his neighbor is a murderer. Here I have two sentences. The doctor is a murderer, and the doctor visits his neighbor. Whereas for the second sentence, the doctor visits his neighbor who is a murderer. Here, the neighbor is the murderer instead. As you can see, the location where I put the relative clause could make a huge difference to the original sentence. So be very, very careful where you put the relative clause. Do not put it in the wrong way, or else you will be accusing the wrong person as the murderer. Like this. Okay? Let's try. I have here 5 sentences. Which relative pronoun should I use for each example? Let's try together. The first one, the boy. Who or that won the prize? The second one, the prize. Which or that Mrs. Lai presented? The third one, the boy. Who or that Mrs. Lai is talking to? The fourth one, the student. Who or that is giving a speech? Is the prefect. Last one, the hall. Which or that is newly constructed? Looks very nice. Great! Now that we have finished the basic foundation part of this chapter, let's move on to the second half of this lesson, which is a little bit more complicated. In the second part, we're going to talk about the use of commas. Let's look at this sample sentence. Miss Chan, who teaches us English, is a millionaire. I wish. Okay, so here, as you can see, I have 2 commas here. Why? Again, this sentence can be separated into 2 shorter sentences. Miss Chan teaches us English, and also Miss Chan is a millionaire. Even if we separate these longer sentences into 2, I still have 2 sentences with complete meaning. And because we have the name Miss Chan here, I think we are quite sure which Miss Chan we are talking about, which teacher we are talking about, because we have the name as well. In this case, the relative clause who teaches us English is called a non-defining clause. This term may sound very complicated, very sophisticated, but don't worry. It just means that it's not necessary for us to identify who Miss Chan is. It means even if we take this phrase away and we just have Miss Chan is a millionaire, you should know which Miss Chan we are talking about. Okay, because we have the proper name here. Then, if so, then we can use 2 commas to separate this clause to show other people that this is just extra information, not necessary. In general, there are 3 situations in which we need to add commas. 1, like in the previous example, we are given a name of a person or name of a place. 2, if there is a possessive pronoun, for example, my book, your book, his book, her book. And the third case would be that the object is already mentioned in the passage earlier. This is quite common in your exam if you are given a whole paragraph. If the thing is mentioned before and we are very clear about which object or which person we are talking about already, then again, we can use comma. Because the relative clause, even when taken away, we know which object or which person we are talking about quite clearly. Just by listening to the rules might be quite confusing, so let's look at these sentences. I have 5 sentences here. Let's try to see if we need to add commas around the relative clauses. Let's look at the first one. Our new teacher, who is called Mr. White, is from China. Do I need to add comma? The answer is yes, because here I have a possessive pronoun our. It means that when I say our new teacher, usually if I am saying this sentence to you, you will know which teacher I'm talking about. We have the same teacher, so you should know Mr. White as well as I do. What about the next one? Tommy, who is only 12, is our group leader. Do I need to add comma? The answer is again yes, because we have a name, Tommy. Okay, the relative clause, who is only 12. Who is the who here? It's Tommy, right? We have the name. What about the third one? See that building? The building, which was built in 1823, is old. Do I need to add commas? Again, it is yes, because the building is mentioned before already. See that building. So I'm assuming that when I am saying this sentence, I am pointing to a building. So you should know which building I am talking about. The building, while pointing to that, the building which was built, so you know which this building is. What about the fourth one? I enjoy spending time with the lady who lives across the street. Do I need to add comma? The answer is no, because I cannot take away this relative clause. Let's try to take this away. If I take away the relative clause, I am only left with I enjoy spending time with the lady. Which lady? This is the question you'll probably ask, right? Because I haven't told you anything about the lady. In this case, I must give you the information who lives across the street in order to identify which lady I'm talking about. In this case, this is necessary. I cannot take it away, so I don't need the comma. Last one. I'm looking for a book which is both funny and educational. Do I need commas? The answer is again no. Because if I take this away, if I take the relative clause away, I only have I am looking for a book. Which book? Again, this is the question you will ask. Which book? You haven't told me. So I must have the information looking for a book which is both funny and educational. I must have the which clause for you to know which book I am talking about. So sentences 1, 2, and 3 show you some three situations where we needed to add commas. Now, I would like you to try to complete notes on the worksheet given to you and also the exercises, and bring the worksheet back to me on tomorrow's class. Good luck!